Ladies and gentlemen, 99% of men walk through life thinking they know the game, but they're blind to the very truths that shape power, respect, and success. They chase what doesn't matter, they settle for less, and they never realize the secret that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. But if you're listening right now, you're about to hear what the 99% will never understand, the hidden keys that only the rare 1% dare to master. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover has the power to change your life forever. Most men walk through life believing they understand the rules, thinking they know what truly matters, yet the truth is that 99% still remain blind to the essence of what gives them power, influence, and respect. This blindness does not come from a lack of intelligence, but from a lack of awareness. They chase success in the wrong direction. They pursue validation from the wrong people, and they waste precious energy on things that never elevate them. The difference between the man who thrives and the man who struggles is not luck. It is wisdom that remains hidden in plain sight, wisdom that only the rare 1% dares to uncover. You see, most men believe strength lies in their muscles, in their wealth, or in their possessions. They think that being admired is about how many people follow them, how many women desire them, or how much money they can flash. But those who rise above mediocrity understand that true strength is silent, unshakable, and deeply rooted in self-mastery. It is not about being noticed, but about being undeniable. It is not about loudness, but about presence. When you walk into a room, do you command respect without saying a word? That is what 99% of men have yet to master. The secret is not in chasing, but in becoming. Too many men chase after women, opportunities, and attention. They run after things like hunters desperate for prey. But the few who know understand that the real power lies in attracting, in drawing everything to you because of who you are becoming. You don't chase value, you embody it. You don't run after validation, you exude it. When you stop chasing and instead focus on becoming the man of substance, of vision, of unbreakable standards, suddenly everything that once ran from you starts moving toward you. Most men still don't know that discipline is the foundation of freedom. They think freedom is about doing whatever they want, whenever they want, without rules, without restraint. Yet this is the fastest road to failure. The rare 1% understands that discipline is not a prison, it is liberation. When you discipline your body, your mind, your habits, you become the master of yourself. And when you master yourself, no temptation, no distraction, no weakness can control you. The world bends to the will of the man who has bent himself into shape first. 99% of men still don't realize that confidence is not given, it is cultivated. They wait for approval, they wait for compliments, they wait for someone to tell them they are worthy. But the man who rises does not wait. He builds himself. Confidence is born from consistency, from doing the hard things when no one is watching, from showing up day after day when giving up would have been easier. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you carve another stone into the foundation of unshakable self-belief. That is why some men radiate power even in silence, because their actions have built them from the inside out. Most men still don't know that the way they speak is the reflection of their destiny. They waste words on gossip, on negativity, on complaints. They do not realize that words carry weight, and every word they speak builds or destroys the world they are stepping into. But the few who know guard their tongue with care. They speak with clarity, conviction, and vision. When they open their mouth, people listen, not because of volume, but because of substance. When they speak, they don't just communicate, they influence. 99% of men fail because they have not understood the value of time. They think they have endless tomorrows, endless chances, endless years. So they waste today scrolling, watching, indulging. They forget that every wasted hour is an opportunity they will never recover. The man who rises understands that time is the most valuable currency he will ever possess. He does not waste it. He invests it. Every moment is either feeding his weakness or feeding his greatness. What you do daily defines who you become permanently. The truth most men don't know is that respect is not demanded, it is earned. You cannot force people to respect you with anger, with threats, or with arrogance. Respect comes from consistency, from character, from the quiet strength of a man who leads himself first before leading others. When people see that you live what you speak, that your words and actions align, respect becomes inevitable. That is why some men command loyalty without ever asking for it, while others beg for recognition and still remain invisible. Most men still don't know the power of silence. They feel the need to always respond, to always prove themselves, to always defend their worth. But silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Silence is focus. Silence is control. When you master silence, you no longer react to everything. You choose what deserves your energy. And in that restraint, you become powerful, because people realize you cannot be easily swayed, triggered, or manipulated. Silence is a language only the wise truly understand. 99% of men still don't know that their environment is shaping them more than their intentions. They keep friends who drag them down, they stay in spaces that kill their ambition, and they consume content that poisons their vision, and then they wonder why their life does not change. The rare 1% knows that greatness cannot grow in toxic soil. They choose their circle carefully, they guard their space, and they create an environment where growth is inevitable. If you want to know where a man is headed, look at the company he keeps. Most men don't realize that greatness is not found in the extraordinary moments, but in the ordinary ones. They wait for the big break, the perfect chance, the right time. They live for tomorrow and neglect today. But the man who rises knows that small disciplines, repeated daily, lead to massive transformations. It is not about what you do once in a while. It is about what you do every single day when no one is watching. That is what separates the average from the exceptional. The truth most men still don't know is that women, opportunities, and respect are not drawn to men who simply want them. They are drawn to men who deserve them. Desire without discipline is delusion. Wanting without working is weakness. If you want to attract what others chase, you must become what others cannot. That is why the rare 1% spends less time talking about what they want and more time becoming the man who deserves it. 99% of men still don't know that their legacy is being written now, not later. They think they will build it someday when they are older, richer, or wiser. But legacy is not built in the future. It is built in the present. Every choice, every habit, every action you take is carving your story into the world. The question is, are you writing a story worth remembering, or are you fading into the background of history unnoticed? The secret is simple, yet overlooked. Most men will live and die never realizing that everything they were searching for was within them all along. The respect they crave, the confidence that they seek, the love they desire, the success they pursue. It all begins with mastering themselves. Only the 1% who wake up to this truth will ever taste the fullness of what life can offer. And the moment you decide to rise above the blindness of the 99, you step into a life. ChatGPT said, and the moment you decide to rise above the blindness of the 99, you step into a life that is not only rare but unforgettable. You begin to notice that everything changes when you shift from seeking to serving, from proving to improving, from wanting to becoming. Most men do not see that the true difference is not in what they do occasionally, but in who they choose to be consistently. Consistency is the invisible force that separates the fleeting from the lasting. Anyone can be great for a day, anyone can put in effort for a week, but only those who master consistency rise above mediocrity and step into extraordinary results. What most men fail to realize is that comfort is the enemy of growth. Comfort whispers to you, telling you to stay where it's safe, to stay where it's easy, to stay where you don't have to stretch. But the 1% understand that nothing remarkable ever grows in comfort zones. Every time you choose comfort over courage, you shrink. Every time you choose safety over struggle, you surrender your greatness. But when you step into discomfort, when you willingly face challenges, when you embrace the fire instead of running from it, you are forged into a man who cannot be broken. Comfort creates weakness. Challenge creates strength. 99% of men still don't know that purpose is more powerful than pleasure. They live their lives chasing the next thrill, the next distraction, the next temporary high. They are intoxicated by the illusion of pleasure, thinking it will fill the emptiness inside. But the emptiness only grows larger because pleasure without purpose is a trap. The few who rise understand that living with purpose gives meaning to everything. Purpose makes your struggle worthwhile. Purpose makes your sacrifice. Meaningful. Purpose fuels you when motivation runs out. Without purpose, even victories feel hollow. With purpose, even defeats shape you into something greater. Most men still don't know that leadership is not about position, it's about influence. They wait to be given a title, a role, or recognition before they step up. They do not see that true leadership begins with leading yourself, your habits, your emotions, your actions. The man who leads himself naturally leads others, because people are drawn to those who demonstrate control, vision, and strength. Leadership is not proclaimed, it is proven. It's not about shouting commands, it's about setting standards. It's not about demanding loyalty, it's about inspiring it. The rare few who understand this principle never have to chase followers, because people naturally align with those who embody what they aspire to become. 99% of men still don't realize that success without character is failure in disguise. They believe that if they gain money, fame, or influence, they have won. Yet many who rise without building character collapse under the weight of their own success. Character is the foundation that sustains greatness. Without integrity, wealth becomes emptiness. Without humility, power becomes poison. Without discipline, success becomes destruction. But when character is strong, success becomes service, wealth becomes wisdom, and power becomes purpose. This is why the greatest men are not just remembered for what they achieved, but for who they became while achieving it. Most men still don't know that the mind is the battlefield, where victories are won or lost before any action is taken. They underestimate the power of thought, allowing doubt, fear, and negativity to poison their vision. They feed their mind with mediocrity and then wonder why they struggle to think like champions. But few know that what you feed your mind determines the life you live. They guard their thoughts as treasures. They reject weakness in their self-talk, and they rehearse greatness in their imagination until it becomes reality. They know that when the mind is disciplined, no external circumstance can break them, because their internal world is unshakable. 99% of men still don't understand the strength of patience. They want results instantly, victories immediately, and success overnight. They give up too quickly, abandoning their dreams at the first sign of difficulty. They don't see that greatness takes time, just as a seed takes seasons to become a tree. Patience is not weakness, it is wisdom. The few who understand this principle know that consistency and patience are partners. While others chase quick rewards, they build slowly, steadily, and surely. And when the storm comes, it is not the shallow roots of impatience that survive, but the deep roots of patience that endure. Most men still don't know that true wealth is not measured in currency, but in impact. Money is a tool, but it is not the destination. You can have riches and still be bankrupt in purpose, in love, in fulfillment. The rare few understand that the true measure of wealth is the lives you touch, the legacy you leave, the values you uphold. A wealthy man is not the one with the biggest bank account, but the one who creates value wherever he goes. Influence, wisdom, respect, and love are currencies far greater than money, and those who understand this truth never run out of riches. 99% of men still don't know that vulnerability is not weakness. It is strength. They hide their struggles, bury their pain, and mask their fears, believing that showing emotion makes them less of a man. But the rare few know that authenticity creates connection. When you are real, when you are honest, when you allow yourself to be seen, you inspire others not through perfection, but through courage. Vulnerability is the bridge between strength and humanity, and those who walk across it are remembered not as flawless, but as fearless. Most men still don't know that the greatest battles are not fought against others, but against themselves. They compete with friends, with colleagues, with strangers, constantly comparing and measuring their worth against external standards. But the man who rises understands that the only true competition is with the man in the mirror. Every day he seeks to be better than he was yesterday. Every step forward, no matter how small, is victory. The rare few measure progress not by comparison, but by growth. They do not envy others, they evolve themselves. 99% of men still don't realize that gratitude is a weapon of power. They complain about what they lack, focusing on what went wrong, feeding bitterness and frustration. They fail to see that gratitude shifts everything. The man who practices gratitude is unstoppable because he recognizes abundance even in scarcity, lessons even in losses, and blessings even in battles. Gratitude does not make you complacent. It makes you strong because it teaches you to see possibility in every circumstance. The rare 1% who live in gratitude attract more to be grateful for because they have trained their eyes to see opportunity where others see obstacles. Most men still don't know that love is not a weakness, but a strength that refines. They treat love as a distraction, or worse, as a game to win. They forget that love, whether for a partner, for a vision, or for life itself, is the force that gives meaning to existence. Love makes sacrifice possible. Love makes resilience unbreakable. Love makes purpose unstoppable. A man without love becomes hollow, chasing endless pursuits yet never feeling fulfilled. But a man with love becomes unstoppable because his drive is not fueled by ego but by devotion. 99% of men still don't know that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward in spite of it. They wait for fear to disappear before they act, not realizing that fear never leaves. It is only silenced by action. The rare few feel fear, but do not bow to it. They step into uncertainty, they take the leap, they embrace the unknown. And it is in those moments when fear and courage collide that greatness is born. Most men still don't know that their destiny is not written by fate, but by choice. They wait for opportunities, wait for luck, wait for someone to come and rescue them. They do not see that every decision they make is a pen writing the script of their life. The rare few do not wait for chances. They create them. They do not wait for doors to open. They build doors. They do not wait for permission. They step forward boldly. And because they choose differently, they live differently. And this is the truth hidden in plain sight. The 99% remain trapped because they are waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, the right feeling. But the rare 1% act. They do not wait for life to change. They change. They do not wait for the world to recognize them. They recognize themselves. They do not wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. And that single shift is the secret most men will never know. And that single shift is the secret most men will never know. Because the truth is, most men go through life waiting for external confirmation, waiting for someone else to tell them that they are ready, waiting for the stars to align before they take action. But the reality is that there is no perfect moment. There is no magical alignment that guarantees success. The only guarantee is the decision you make right now. The 1% understand this. They know that hesitation kills more dreams than failure could. They act, even when it's uncertain, even when it's uncomfortable, even when fear whispers in their ears. Action is the antidote to fear, and every small step forward creates momentum that builds into unstoppable force. 99% of men still don't know that energy is everything. The way you carry yourself, the way you walk into a room, the way you look people in the eye, these things speak louder than your words. Energy cannot be faked for long. It reveals the truth of how you live, how you think, and how you feel about yourself. That's why some men never need to announce who they are. Their energy announces it before they even open their mouths. And the rare few cultivate their energy by taking care of their bodies, guarding their minds, and aligning their actions with their values. This energy makes them magnetic, and it attracts the very opportunities and people that others spend their lives chasing. Most men still don't know that focus is a superpower. They scatter their attention, moving from one distraction to another, never staying with one thing long enough to master it. They spend hours scrolling, watching, comparing, while their dreams gather dust in the corner of their minds. But those who rise know that focus creates momentum. Focus takes an ordinary man and transforms him into a master. When you give your full attention to growth, when you shut out distractions, when you choose depth over noise, you separate yourself from the 99. Focus is rare in a world of endless distraction, and that's why the focused man will always rise above the rest. 99% of men still don't realize that consistency beats talent. They believe that greatness is about being gifted, about being naturally better than others. But talent without discipline is wasted potential. Talent without consistency dies quickly. The rare few who dominate are not always the most talented, but they are the most consistent. They show up when others quit. They persist when others give up. They continue even when motivation has long faded. And over time, their consistency outlasts and outshines the talent of others. This is why the world remembers those who kept going, not those who started with potential but never followed through. Most men still don't know that resilience is built in the fire of adversity. They think struggle is a sign of failure, that pain means they should give up, that setbacks are proof they are not good enough. But the rare 1% understand that struggle is the teacher, pain is the refiner, and setbacks are the foundation for comebacks. Every time life knocks you down and you choose to rise again, you are building resilience. Resilience is not learned in comfort, it is forged in battle. The man who refuses to quit becomes unstoppable, not because he never faced failure, but because he faced failure and still kept moving. 99% of men still don't know that emotions are meant to be mastered, not suppressed. They let anger control them, fear limit them, and doubt paralyze them. They explode at the wrong times, or they bury their feelings until they turn into poison. But the rare few understand that emotions are powerful servants but terrible masters. They learn to channel their emotions, to use anger as fuel for discipline, to use fear as a signal for growth, to use doubt as a reminder to prepare. Mastering emotions doesn't mean ignoring them, it means directing them toward purpose. The man who controls his emotions controls his destiny. Most men still don't know that courage is not something you wait for. It is something you decide. They think brave men are born different, that courage is a gift given to a chosen few. But courage is simply the choice to move forward despite fear. The 1% understand that courage is built through action. Every time you act when you are afraid, you are building the muscle of courage. Over time, you become the kind of man who doesn't need certainty to act. You become the kind of man who steps forward even in the storm. That is why courageous men achieve what fearful men only dream of. 99% of men still don't know the value of sacrifice. They want everything without giving up anything. They want success without discipline, wealth without work, respect without responsibility. But the rare few know that sacrifice is the price of greatness. To rise above the ordinary, you must be willing to let go of what is comfortable. You must give up short-term pleasures for long-term rewards. Sacrifice is not loss, it is investment. Every time you sacrifice what is easy for what is meaningful, you are building a life that others will envy but never understand. Most men still don't know that self-respect determines the respect they receive from others. They tolerate disrespect, they lower their standards, they betray their values in search of acceptance, and then they wonder why they are overlooked, dismissed, or ignored. The rare few set standards and never compromise them. They teach others how to treat them by how they treat themselves. Self-respect is magnetic. When you respect yourself deeply, the world has no choice but to respond in kind. 99% of men still don't know that health is the foundation of everything. They sacrifice their bodies for money, their sleep for distractions, their health for temporary indulgence. But when health fades, everything else loses meaning. The rare few understand that strength of body fuels strength of mind, and strength of mind fuels strength of character. They take care of their bodies not out of vanity, but out of respect for the vessel that carries them through life. Because without health, wealth means nothing. Success means nothing, and influence fades quickly. Most men still don't know that true masculinity is not about domination, but about responsibility. They think being a man is about control, about aggression, about proving themselves through power. But true strength is gentle when it needs to be, firm when it must be, and responsible always. The rare few embrace responsibility as a privilege, not a burden. They lead not through fear, but through example. They understand that true manhood is not about taking from others, but about serving with strength. 99% of men still don't know that humility is power. They believe arrogance makes them strong, that pride makes them respected, that showing superiority gives them value. But arrogance is weakness disguised as strength. True confidence does not need to shout, it simply is. The rare few remain humble, even as they rise. They know that humility does not make them small. It makes them limitless, because it keeps them open to learning, to growth, to wisdom. The man who remains teachable never stops evolving, and that evolution is the key to sustained greatness. Most men still don't know that forgiveness is freedom. They hold on to grudges, replay betrayals, and carry the weight of bitterness in their hearts. They don't realize that resentment is a prison that traps only them. But the where few release anger, not for others, but for themselves. Forgiveness does not excuse the wrong. It simply frees you from its chains. A man who forgives walks lighter, lives freer, and moves forward faster. 99% of men still don't know that greatness is not measured in how high you climb, but in how many people you lift along the way. They chase selfish success, building empires only for themselves, and in the end, they are forgotten. But the rare few know that significance is greater than success. They pour into others, they invest in lives, they leave an impact that echoes long after they are gone. That is why some men are remembered for generations. Not for what they had, but for what they gave. And this is the truth that separates the 1% from the 99. They choose differently. They choose discipline over distraction, purpose over pleasure, consistency over comfort, humility over arrogance, and responsibility over recklessness. They understand that every choice is shaping their destiny. And because they choose differently, they live differently, they rise differently, and they are remembered differently.